Well, it's Christmas. We've got ourselves a new doctor. I thought I'd try and dress for the occasion. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel and Merry Christmas! This video is going out, of course, on Christmas Day, so hopefully you're watching on Christmas Day. If you're not, still a Merry Christmas to you. I hope you're doing really well. And this is my review of the Christmas Invasion, a part of my New Who Doctor Who review. If you have missed any of the previous episodes, by that I mean you have missed my reviews of the entire first series of New Who, then do please make sure you go back, check out my playlist on the channel. You can see all of the previous Doctor Who episodes that I have done so far. Now, I just want to say a huge thank you, a big love of support to every single person who has supported my channel over the last sort of month or so since I started doing these videos properly. So a big love to each and every single one of you. But we're here for a review. So if you are new, please note that I have 10 categories and I score each one out of 10 to give an overall score out of 100. Now, let's get started with category number 1. Now, the story of this episode can be broken down into literally a few words. This story is about Rose, the companion, coming to terms with the fact that she has lost her doctor. And there is this man standing, wearing his clothes, but seemingly calls himself the Doctor, seemingly says he's the same man, but she doesn't believe it. And it's her trying to basically determine, where is he? Where's the Doctor? Is this man still the Doctor? Or is this some imposter? That's the general gist of the story. Add in the fact that there is a alien threat coming involved as well. But the most part, it's all about Rose and coming to terms. Well, maybe not just Rose, but Jackie and Mickey and Harriet Jones. All of these people learning that, no, this is a new man. The function of the companion is to be an audience surrogate in a lot of cases. So for many fans of Doctor Who, for newer fans of Doctor Who, this probably would have been the first time that they've come to terms with seeing one lead actor changing into another. And for a lot of them, particularly children, they will be quite confused and probably have a lot of questions. And they also are probably trying to come to terms with, is this really the same person? And they do a really good job of that with the episode. And the alien threat is a generic alien threat. Aliens come in, they want to take over the planet and steal the resources. That's basically it. But you didn't want anything too over the top with the villains, because it would detract from the main purpose of the story. So the story, I think, did a really good job in what it needed to tell. And I think it's going to score 7 marks out of 10. The Doctor in this episode, despite being on screen a lot of the time, the Doctor himself was in the story for a very short period of time. Because the majority of the episode, a good 2/3, 3/4 of the episode, he's just lying there unconscious, sleeping, releasing all this regeneration energy into the upper atmosphere. That's it. You have a tiny little bit at the beginning where the TARDIS crash lands. You have a tiny little bit in the middle when the Christmas tree attack happens. A sentence I don't think I'd ever thought I'd really ever say before watching Doctor Who. And then, of course, you had the finale. And the finale is where it is the Doctor. Because all the other bits, it was in that sort of post-regenerative haze, and you didn't really know kind of what was really happening. But when he wakes up, He commands the screen from the very moment, from the moment the doors open and he says,
"Did you miss me?"
And then you have the whole thing with he like catches the whip. And I love the little scene where he works out very, very quickly about the blood control. And his joy in it is just hilarious and such a wonderful scene. And the whole dialogue with the Sycorax leader when he goes, "I demand to know who you are," and he just goes, "I don't know," and he just goes on this whole rant. It's just wonderful stuff, and it really, in a very short period of time, shows the difference between Christopher Eccleston's Doctor and David Tennant's Doctor. But yeah, everything he did was the Doctor, and I think had he been in it more, probably would have got a higher score. As it is, for the time that he was in the episode, I'm giving him 7 marks out of 10. Now, Rose in this episode is very different from the majority of season 1. This is a time that you actually start to see Rose become a core component of the team. For the most part of series 1, I feel that she was just kind of there along for the ride. Now she's had a full season, she's kind of bedded in. Yes, she has to learn to work with the Doctor again, because obviously they're two very different Doctors and how they work is very different styles. But this is where she begins to take charge of the situation. And that is shown very clearly when they get brought on board the Sycorax ship, when Harriet Jones says, "We don't have a Doctor." And Rose says,
"Someone's got to be the Doctor."
That was really powerful. You know, that's her now really starting to try to take charge. And you're going to see more of that, if I remember correctly, from season 2. So that's going to be a really interesting rewatch as I go back through these episodes. But Rose definitely was stronger than the vast majority of the season 1 episodes here. I'm going to give her 7 marks out of 10. Supporting characters in this episode, I think, again, we've got a bit of a step up. Mickey is starting to feel a little bit more confident as a character. Jackie, I think she's more accepting of the Doctor now, particularly after having to help Rose out in the finale for season 1, which from Rose's perspective, it literally probably happens only, like an hour or so after she first left her mum. But for mum, it's probably been a little while. But you're starting to see a softer side of Jackie in this episode, particularly when she kind of sits vigil by the Doctor's bed when he's unconscious, and she's just kind of there watching over him. She's almost like becoming a mother over him. And I like that aspect of her. I really like seeing that. It shows a different side of her. Yes, she still has her gobby moments, but she's starting to become more caring, more warming to the Doctor. You've got the 3 kind of side companions with Harriet Jones, 4 maybe. You've obviously got the Major from Unit. You've got Daniel Llewellyn, who is the man who sent up the probe. And then, of course, you've got Alex, who's her right-hand man. And then you could maybe class Sally Jenkins in for a very short period of time. But the biggest thing I notice here is Harriet Jones. Because Harriet Jones is now Prime Minister. And she still has that backbencher mentality. She still expects no one to know who she is. And she's still very caring. To the point that, if you remember back to the Slitheen episode, Aliens of London and World War III, she was visibly upset with the secretary who got killed by one of the Slitheen. And she never asked his name. And it was very poignant in this episode that she was constantly asking people's names. She wanted to make sure she knew people's names. For example, Sally. She spoke to Sally, she introduced herself, and at the end of that, she asked her to repeat her name. She wants to know these people. She wants to know who she's working with. She wants to be on first name terms. And I really like that as a character. And I really like the ending for her. The fact that, you know, she actually stands up to the Doctor. And I think she's actually quite right to say that, you know, Doctor, you're not here all the time. You do come and go. And we've got to defend ourselves. And I think that is a very, very solid grounds for arguments. Because you literally don't know when the Doctor's going to be there. You don't know if he's going to get killed in an adventure, you know, 1,000 years in the future and you're never going to see him again. You have to learn to stand up for yourselves. And Chris Eccleston's Doctor, the Ninth Doctor, he kind of said that in the Aliens of London episode. You know, when Rose was asking me, are you going to interfere? He's like, no, you have to learn to deal with these things yourself. So I really like that aspect of her. I'm going to give the supporting characters 8 marks out of 10. The villains of this piece are the Sycorax for the most part, and then maybe you could include the Robot Santas. The designs of both I really liked. The Robot Santas were creepy enough to make you wonder, oh, these are villains, who are they, what they're going to do. And then the Sycorax, which was quite an interesting design. I like the design of them. They're very creative in Doctor Who for all these alien designs. I really like them. However, the biggest problem I had was they were there to present a problem for the Doctor. That is it. And so they couldn't be too much as a villain. They couldn't really overshadow him and make it too difficult of a problem because you needed to wrap everything up in a very short period of time. But they were good for what they needed to do. I thought the whole defeat them by the trial by combat thing, I thought that was a bit silly, really. But again, it's something that had to be done in a really short period of time just to kind of get it ended quickly. Because you spend so much time setting up and the Doctor being bedbound and everything. So, yeah, a little bit light there. I'll give the villains slightly under average, and I'll give them 4 out of 10. Music of this episode, I feel that they're learning the errors from season 1, where the balance isn't always good. I thought the balance of the music wasn't too loud at times to overshadow the scenes. Maybe a smidge, but for the most part, it was a pretty good level there. And there was at least one new track, which I don't remember it the first time round, but now I've seen it come up again and again in later things. It's basically the theme for Unit. The theme when they come in. And I particularly remember that from, I think it was the Sontaran double part in season 4. So some really good music and some okay music. So I'll go only slightly above average and go for 6 out of 10. Special effects, there weren't that too many close-up shots. Where it did detract, really, I mean, it was so noticeable when the Doctor's hand got cut off. And you see this basically CGI pajama sleeve. That was a bit there. But for the most part, it was reasonably good because there were a lot more wide shots. And I've said this a lot in season 1. Wide shots look pretty damn good. But I'll tell you one thing I'll give really good credit for, and it's really good attention to detail. The spaceship comes over London. And at one point, you see kind of a big wide shot of London. If you notice Big Ben, they're rebuilding Big Ben. And that has stemmed from when the Slitheen spaceship crashed into it in Aliens of London. So just that tiny little bit of attention to detail is really, really good there. So I'm going to go, again, a bit above average, and I'm going to go 7 out of 10. Dialogue in this episode was okay. It was, for the most part, it was passable dialogue. I loved Tennant's stuff when he kind of comes into it once he's kind of rejuvenated himself and he's kind of, you know, himself. Some really good stuff there. The whole thing at the end with the I can take down your government using 6 words, that's, in a way, I almost feel was unnecessary. Because I'll tell you what, I don't think Harriet Jones would have survived anyway. Because when she does her television broadcast, A, they have to ask during the broadcast, have we asked about the royal family? Which that kind of takes you out of place a bit. You'd think that the Prime Minister would have prepared her speech enough to know that people are probably going to think that and would ask about that. So they will know the answer to that. But then also the fact that she actually openly admits, I don't know what to do. And she's asking for help. Now, don't get me wrong, everyone needs help occasionally. But when you're the head of a government, you do not let slip to the general public that you do not know what you're doing or you do not know how to solve something. Because people are going to revolt against you. So because of that, I'm probably going to bring the scores down a little bit more slightly. But it's still slightly above average. 6 out of 10. Now, the costumes of the piece, I would say, for the most part, are fairly average. It's a modern day setting, lots of modern day clothing. I really do like the uniforms for units, which are, when they were introducing Aliens London, they were just more generic military wear. Now they've introduced something which is going to be a constant moving forward. And I like the outfits there. I did really like the design of the Sycorax. I thought they had some really nice designs there. And, of course, you get introduced to the Doctor's outfit. And that pinstripe suit and kind of long, kind of brown, cream, tan, whatever colour you want to call it, long coat is wonderful. But then you also, you don't quite have the tie, quite done up properly. You've got the kind of Converse trainers. So he's smart and he's to the point, but he's also a little bit casual and a little bit ready for action. So I dig that. Costumes get 7 out of 10. And finally, the set. Again, a lot of the sets, fairly basic there. They're modern day stuff. They're generic indoor sets. But I'm going to give props to the design for the Sycorax spaceship. The design of the Sycorax spaceship is not something I would have predicted that they would have gone for, but I like the sort of rock nature of it. It was something quite different there, and I really like the fact that they are going for something rather than a traditional kind of flying saucer type spaceship. So the set, I'm going to give 7 marks out of 10. And so, what does that mean for the Christmas Invasion? Well, the Christmas Invasion has scored 66 marks out of 100. And that means it is a B- rated episode. So that's the end of my first review of the first Christmas special for Doctor Who. Of course, from New Who. My next episode of Doctor Who will be Series 2, Episode 1, New Earth. That will be coming out on Wednesday the 11th of January. Now, for the majority of Season 1, I did it in a 2-episode-a-week format, mostly because I wanted to start on the 23rd of November and I wanted to get the first season done in order to be able to do this episode for Christmas Day. That's the reason I did it that way. But moving forwards, I'll be doing it once a week and it will be on a Wednesday. 6 o'clock release every single week. And then, of course, when we get to it, I will also include Torchwood. That will be at some point to tie in with the way the episodes work to make them fall in line. Of course, that will be coming out. I'll let you know that in more due course. But that will end up being Torchwood Tuesdays and Doctor Who Wednesdays. But for now, Please, if you're new, do consider subscribing to the channel. Like the video if you did. And until next time, thank you so much for watching. My name's Kevin, I am a geek, and you have been watching Kevin the Geek. Merry Christmas.